What's up, everyone? Welcome to Among the Fence. My name is Aaron, and today we're going over my top 10 favorite albums of the year. Last week, we went over my top 5 worst albums, which can be kind of a sensitive subject. Even though some people disagreed with me, for the most part, it was all fairly respectful. And I just want to say the same thing applies for this list. This is all my opinion. And in the opposite way, if there's an album that you guys really enjoyed that isn't on this list, it doesn't mean that I think that album is bad. Chances are I didn't get around to listening to it, or I just didn't enjoy it as much. There's nothing factual based on this. This is just purely my enjoyment, even though I feel like a broad majority of people will agree with me on some of these. However, the top, 5 list can be kind of rearranged differently for different people. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Just because your favorite album isn't on the list doesn't mean I hated it, but at the same time, leave a comment below letting me know what your top 10 favorite albums of the list are. So let's jump into mine. Number 10 is Little Garden by the band Dwellings. This is a powerful second album. The production is definitely a step up from their debut album. The guitar has so much color and creativity to it, which gives each of these songs their own identity, which can be really hard in this genre where it just sounds like a lot of wheedly doos and everything can kind of sound like, you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And the vocals and storytelling really keep you hooked the whole time and keep you captivated. And I went into this album honestly just wanting to listen to it for my own personal joy. But the more I listened to it, the more I was like, I want to do a review on it. I want to tell people about it. And that's kind of how this one came to be. And it's just such a joy to listen to. I gave this one an 8.1 out of 10. Number 9 is The Death We Seek by Currents. I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to disagree with this one being so high up in the list. I'm sure a lot of people are going to put this one in their top 5. This was one of the most anticipated albums of the year. I personally loved the heaviness that this album brought. I felt like that was something that was missing on their last album. The vocals are absolutely incredible, as you would expect from Currents. They have such a unique clean vocal tone to their music, and the riffs were absolutely sick. However, I did feel like sometimes the riffs felt a little bit regurgitated. It felt like something that would have been, heard on their last album. It didn't sound like they were really, pushing the envelope in terms of what they can do with their songwriting, specifically within the guitars. However, it's still pretty killer. It sounds great. The dissonance is just a typical Currents thing that I absolutely love, and it just puts a smile on your face. I give this one an 8.5. Number 8, we have the album Ashen by Humanity's Last Breath. I just love how cohesive this album was. Sometimes the songs kind of blended together a little bit too much, but to me that's what made it feel so great. It made it feel like it's just this one giant thought that they turned into music. It feels very intentional in that sense, which made it a little bit easier for me to, accept that sometimes these songs kind of sound the same, that the same kind of melody playing through it. The songwriting and the music is absolutely top tier. The lead guitar stood out to me the most. Like I said, the melodies. My favorite song off this album is Lifeless, Deathless. It's got like an old school death metal touch to it, and the brutality just progresses all the way through. It's easily one of the most listened to tracks I had throughout this year. I gave this one an 8.4 out of 10. Number 7, we have Necromantium by Carif Effect. This album is just absolutely sick. Again, some of the songs can kind of sound the same, but they do have differences that made it stand out, and it made them all enjoyable to me. The synth was used brilliantly. The riffs are absolutely gnarly, but mainly the drums stood out to me the most. The different vocals do a good job at storytelling, while the music sets the atmosphere with violins and piano. The Black Dahlia vibes in Crowned in Ever Black, saluting Trevor, was absolutely heartwarming. It was so well done. The name of the song, everything about it was fantastic. It's a beautiful tribute. I give this one an 8.3 out of 10. Coming in at number 6, we have Super Bloom by Silent Planet. I know this is another album that a lot of people are going to think it's just too low on the list. This is another one that flows like it's just one big long track. It follows the events that happened during and after their car accident where their van flipped while they were on tour. So it's kind of a concept album, but it's also based on reality, which I enjoyed a lot. The songwriting is unique. Of course, the lyrics are great as well. It's more mainstream, I guess you could say, compared to their past albums, which I gotta admit, I didn't really care for this sound quite as much as their past stuff. It's got almost a touch of like a spirit box influence on this one. The only issues I really had was the overuse of the same kind of synth and the whispered vocals, but again, it kind of flows like it's just one big long conceptual thought. I do believe that their last album, Iridescent, was better. It was definitely a lot higher on my list last year, but I'm still giving this one at 8.8 out of 10. Coming in at number 5, we have Amongst the Low and Empty by Signs of the Swarm. This is probably like my third most listened to album this year, especially the song Dream Killer, which is just absolutely phenomenal. I love Fit for Autopsy, probably my favorite deathcore band, followed by Shadow of Intent. But this one tops most of their stuff. I just enjoyed this album so much. The story is a different take on something we've heard so many times before, which made it more enjoyable. I just wish there was a little bit more riffage, or I guess moments where the guitar riff stood out just a little bit more within the mix. The synth stuff does also become a little bit predictable too. But I mean, it's still a deathcore banger. This album is so underrated, and it just shows how underrated Signs of the Swarm are. Their last album, Absolver, was fantastic as well. I feel like this is a band that doesn't get enough credit for how fantastic they are. I gave this one at 8.6 out of 10. And before we jump into the top 5, I just have some honorable mentions that I feel like these albums could fit somewhere in the bottom half, 10 through 6, but I didn't really know where to place them, and I felt like, the albums I already mentioned, I liked a little bit more, but these ones still definitely deserve a place in the spotlight. We have Treasures, Sex and Sax, absolutely beautiful music with beautiful vocals that I love. This is the album I just keep going back to. And of course, Saxophone, which I'm an absolute sucker for. Then we have Dying Fetus with Make Them Beg for Death. This is just it's just brutal death metal at its finest, with disturbing lyrics and just heavy ass riffs. And then we have Baroness with their album Stone. This is just it's just a piece of art. That's all you can really say about this one. The intention on Stone when it comes to the vocals and different vocal tones and just the different styles of music, it's so good. The female vocals and also just the guitar playing, and the fact that the guitar tone changes throughout the album. It's not just the same thing over and over again, which doesn't sound like a whole lot to ask for. It's just a piece of art, and it's the best way you could describe it. Coming in at number 4, we have Heavener by the band Invent Animate. This is a tough one because this is going to be a lot of people's number 1. This is an emotional roller coaster touching on mental health struggles and dealing with past traumas and losses and finally facing them after lots of years have gone by. This one follows more of a standard metalcore song structure on this album compared to, their more progressive metalcore songwriting that they've used in the past. However, it still sounds so different compared to just standard metalcore that you would hear on the radio. They make subtle changes to the songs with the music and kind of graceful distorted vocals. That's the best way how I could explain the distorted vocals. They have so much kind of tenderness to them as they're talking about the different struggles that they're dealing with. The lyrics are touching and just very sincerely poetic. There's a lot of people who, like I said, would place this as album of the year. I just felt like there was some other albums that stood out to me just a little bit more, but for the longest time, this one was my number 1 too, so I totally get it. I gave this one at 8.9 out of 10. Coming in at number 3, we have Atlas Runica by The Wise Man's Fear. I know I'm just as surprised as you guys are. This one absolutely blew me away. It came out at the beginning of the year, and the theme on all the albums that this band releases are just right up my alley. The clean vocals are very unique and used in a very wise way. I know that a lot of people complain about the clean vocals from this band, but I enjoy them so much. The distorted vocals are absolutely underrated, and they can be so freaking heavy and angry. The lyrics are enthralling as it's just the themes and the fantasies that the lyrics are about, and just everything. It's so good. The music is technical, but it's not like overly compressed, and it's not too over the top for like anybody to really digest it. My favorite song, Where the Sky is Empty, really highlights the clean vocals and what I love about them, while the song Sea of Fire also is just one of my favorite songs on this thing, highlights the aggression and the brutality that this album and this band can bring. I gave this one a 9.1 out of 10. I was not expecting this one. And this is another album I was just going to listen to and enjoy, but instead I was just so into it, I had to do a review on it and tell you guys about it. Coming in at number 2 is Death Below by August Burns Red. I know August Burns Red not coming in number 1 on this channel is just absolute blasphemy. I talk them up so much. They've won everything else that they've ever put out, always comes in number 1. But this is still one of my favorite August Burns Red albums of all time. Rescue and Restore is my number 1 August Burns Red album, and I feel like Death Below borrows a lot of different sounds and interludes from that album. This might be their most experimental and ambitious record that they've ever released, as it's got kind of a concept feel to it, especially the songs are very long. The intro song is not what you would normally expect. They said that normally for intro song, they come in as hard and heavy as they possibly can. This one, it definitely has more of a story to it, and they do a great job at telling it. Some of the stuff is just a little bit extra proggy, which I love because it's not too over the top. It's still something you could just sit down and relax and enjoy. The guitar riffs from JB on this are, I dare say, some of his best stuff. His guitar riffs are fantastic, and the atmosphere that he's able to create with them are just insane. I listened to the song The Abyss probably almost every day, maybe multiple times a day for like the first month that this thing came out, with JT KV from Era being on it. He's one of my favorite vocalists, and between him and Jake Lure's, harmony, it's just absolutely beautiful. I give this one a 9.6 out of 10, and it really does hurt my soul not putting it in number 1. And coming in at number 1 is 72 Seasons by Metallica. No, I'm just kidding. That's not nowhere near this list. Please, I'm sorry, forgive me. The number 1 album of the year, in my eyes, my opinion, is the best thing that I've heard all year, is Moments Elsewhere by Johnny Booth. One of the most gnarly albums I've ever heard, but at the same time, it wasn't too crazy for me to listen. I mean, it was so freaking good. The production is great while it still maintains the rawness that this band is known to have. The vocals have only gotten even more and more insane, if that was possible, and their music has gotten more heavier, if that was even possible. The heaviness, which is to me absolutely not everything. A lot of people accuse me of this too, thinking that heaviness means it's good. It's not everything. In fact, they have some of the best calming moments with between interludes and bridges that just make it just such an intense up and down roller coaster. So many hills and valleys, and it just emphasizes everything. The brutal moments emphasize the lower calming moments, and the lower calming moments emphasize the brutal moments. They incorporate different influences and they fuse them together just beautifully. When a piece of music becomes a little bit too tiresome, like a bass line is just a little bit too much, or a heavy riff is a little bit too much, they throw in a pop punk kind of chorus out of nowhere. And it doesn't sound bad. They know what they're doing. There's not a single thing that I would change on this album. It's perfect. This is, I didn't think they'd be able to beat their last record that they came out with. I didn't think they'd be able to beat August Burns Red, but they absolutely did it. And they did it very, very easily and effortlessly. I mean, it sounds like they're just enjoying making music together. I give this one a 9.7 out of 10. And that is it for my top 10 favorite albums of the year. This was a great year for music. The first half, a little bit better than the second half. We still had some bangers, but they're a little bit, there were some spaces there. I had a hard time finding stuff to talk about, doing reviews on for sure, but it gave me time to do some requested stuff that I'm sure you guys enjoyed quite a bit. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. Leave a comment below letting me know what your favorite albums of the year were. And if you want to help support me and my channel, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon. Doing any of that stuff helps me out tremendously, especially if you give the video a like, because that shows YouTube that you're interested in me. And it will keep my videos popping up in the recommended section. It helps me out so much with YouTube's algorithm. And I just appreciate you guys for taking time out of your day to listen to me sit here and talk about music. Next week, I have my top 5 EPs of the year, which I have no idea what that list is going to look like. It's going to be a surprise for me just as much as it is for you guys. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day or night whenever you have me watching this. And I will talk to you guys next time. I was